Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all on behalf of the Election Commission of India to this training program. It has been specially arranged for you. You are the returning officers and have to play a very important role in the conduct of elections. Rather, you are the kingpin in the conduct of the process at the constituency level, and therefore you must be very thorough about the election law and the election commission's the instructions and directions. Many of you may have already functioned as the RO in the past, but still we would like you to refresh your knowledge and memory, because the law is changing, the election commission's instructions and directions also keep on changing in the light of its experience. So you must be very attentive. You have to perform a very important function, and even a slight mistake may cost very heavily. A person who has won an election with a massive mandate may lose his seat even for a small lapse, and then the constituency will suffer. We may have to hold a repoll, lot of expenditure on behalf of the election commission, on behalf of the government, on behalf of the political parties. So that is why we have devised this special training program. In this training program, I will be mainly confining my talk with you on the first phase of elections. You may be knowing that the election process can be broadly classified into 4 stages or phases. First stage is the nominations, scrutiny and withdrawal of candidates, when the list of contesting candidates become final and the people go to the field. Second stage of phase is the campaign period. Third is the poll, and the fourth is the counting of votes and declaration of results. But today we are going to talk only on the first phase: nominations, scrutiny, withdrawal, and then the preparation of the list of contesting candidates. In my talk with you, I will be referring to certain sections and certain rules. You must be knowing that there is a act which is known as the Representation of the People Act. It was passed in 1951, which governs the conduct of elections to parliament and state legislatures. So whenever in my talk I say section so and so, or say section 30, I am referring to that particular act of 1951. Then under this act, several rules have been made, because everything can't be put in the act. So to supplement those things, the rules have been made, which are known as the Conduct of Elections Rules 1961. Those rules are still applicable. So whenever I say rule so and so, I am referring to that particular set of rules. And whenever I say form 6 or form 1 or form 2, I am referring to a rule, I am referring to a form which is prescribed as a part of those rules. So when I say form 1, I am referring to that form which is prescribed under the Conduct of Elections Rules 1961. So this you kindly keep in mind. First of all, I would like to tell you something about the election program. In the election program, first of all, there is always an announcement of the election schedule by the Election Commission. In fact, this election announcement is not a part of the statutory process. The law does not say that the Election Commission must announce the election schedule before the actual process starts, but it has a very important purpose. Election announcement is made by the Election Commission, giving the total outline of the election process. It is an advance intimation to you that the process is going to start after a few days. you have to be in readiness, you have to be readiness with all forms, with all men and material. And then similarly, this is an advance notice to all the political parties intending candidates that the process is about to start, and then it removes the uncertainty in the minds as to when the elections are going to be held. Then this has another very important connotation now, because the election announcement the day commission makes, on that very day the model code of conduct also comes into play. Previously there was some doubt whether the model code of conduct should be applicable from the date of the announcement of the election schedule or from the date the actual statutory process starts with the issue of the notification. That has been set at rest now. There was some problem and then that was settled. We had to go to the Supreme Court also. There was a agreement ultimately between the Election Commission and the Government of India that normally we will not announce the election schedule more than 3 weeks in advance of the notification. Previously there were certain instances where we had issued the notifications, this announcement was made even about 1 month or 1.5 months before the notification. So ultimately we agreed, yes, we will make the announcement normally 3 weeks in advance of the notification. But you have to keep this in mind that when we are holding an election in a phased manner in the same state, or we are holding elections in a group of states together, then this 21 days period we calculate from the date of the first notification. Supposing 4 states are going to polls and we are going to stagger the issue of notifications in those states, may not be all be issued on the same day. So we calculate this 21 days period or 3 weeks period from the date of the first notification, because everyone then knows that in all these states the election process is going to start, and from this today itself the model code of conduct will be operating. This is the significance of the election announcement. Then, as I have said, the statutory process starts with the issue of the notification. In the case of the general election to the Lok Sabha, the notification is issued by the President of India. He may be issuing a separate notification for Tamil Nadu, another notification for Maharashtra, another notification for some more states. So more than one notification he can issue. And in the case of a legislative assembly, the notification is issued by the governor of the state. There also he may issue one notification for the whole state if the idea is to have a 1-day poll. If we are going to have staggered poll in phases, then there may be separate notifications by the governor also on different dates, and these dates are decided by the Election Commission. We may be consulting the political parties, may be taking their views, may be talking to the government, but the ultimate decision to fix the election program is solely with the Election Commission, and this has been settled by the Supreme Court also in several cases, that this is an exclusive jurisdiction of the Election Commission. Then when the notification calling the general election is issued by the President in the case of Lok Sabha or by the governor of the state, on the same day Election Commission also issues a notification under section 30 of the Representation of the People Act 1951. In that notification the Election Commission specifies the last date for making nominations, the date on which the scrutiny of nominations will be taken up, then the period allowed for the withdrawal of candidatures, then the date of poll, and then the date before which the entire election process has to be completed, including the date of counting. So, this the election commission issues on the day on which the governor or the president calls calls upon the constituencies to elect the members. Here I may like to add you that the notification for a by election to any house is issued by the election commission itself. We have not to go to any other authority for issue of that notification. So, that way also on the same day the election commission issues the notification under section 30. See, under this section 30, the first three stages, last date for nominations, scrutiny and withdrawal, they are automatically fixed by law itself. The law says that the day the notification calling the election is issued, then the 7th day will be the last date for nominations. For example, a notification is issued on the 1st, say January, then 8th January automatically by operation of law in this section 30 itself will be the last date for nominations, and the immediately next day 9th will be the date of scrutiny, then 2 days are provided for withdrawal, and then 11th will be the date of withdrawal. But in case any of these last dates happens to be a public holiday, then naturally the next day is fixed. When public holiday here means a day which has been declared as a public holiday by the state government under the Negotiable Instruments Act. It is not any other day. Supposing some local festival is there and then the government may say, okay, we will observe this day as a holiday, but that is only a local holiday. For that purpose you will have to keep your office open on that day also for receiving the nominations, and then we will also not fix that as the last date. So, that of course will be there, you have to be there on that day. Then as I said, the scrutiny is immediately on the next day, and then withdrawal for 2 days. Then next stage comes the poll. For poll there is no definite limit that on this particular day there should be poll, but there is a definite time lag. So, from the last date of withdrawal, the poll cannot be taken earlier than the 14th day. So, in the earlier example that I gave you, if supposing the 11th is the last date for withdrawal, then the poll cannot be taken before 25th. The earliest day will be the 25th. After 25th there is no bar, we can even have 27th, or even we may have another 2-3 days extra, but we can't take it before 25th. That is the minimum, because you have to make so many preparations during that period. You have to print ballot papers, you have to prepare the voting machines and all that, candidates have to campaign. So, a minimum gap is there for the poll. Then the counting. Counting, of course, the law says that it is the returning officer who has to fix the date, but we have to see that the counting takes on a particular day, and better that the counting is done on the same day everywhere. So, the election commission itself specifies the date on which the counting should be done, and when the election commission specifies this date, it also keeps in view several practical problems. How much time the ballot boxes or the EVMs will take to come back from the polling stations to you, then how much time the returning officers and other officers will be able to would like to have for the submission of their reports, so that we may decide whether any repoll is necessary anywhere. So, all these things are kept in view before we fix the date of counting. Somewhere we may give 2 days gap in between poll and the counting, somewhere in particularly in hilly areas or somewhere we feel that more time is needed, we may be giving some extra days. So, this the election commission decides, and then keeping that in view, we fix the date before which the election should be completed. This is how we fix the election program. Then the day the statutory notification is issued by the president or the governor, on the same day the election commission will issue a notification fixing the election program, but on the same day you have also certain statutory duty to perform. On that very day, in every constituency, you being the returning officer also have to give a public notice in your constituency that in my constituency also this election process is now on from today, and this notification is given in form 1. As I said, form 1 is prescribed in the conduct of elections rule 61. So, you have to see that form, fill it up, there are certain blanks. In that form specifically you have to do 3 things. The law says that you will be receiving the nomination papers, but the law also says that your assistant returning officer can also do that. So, in that notification you have to give the name of your assistant returning officer who may be receiving the nomination papers in addition to you. You may be having more than one assistant returning officer in some cases, but we will always advise you that for this purpose you just give the name of only one assistant returning officer, basically who is posted at your own headquarters, so that if you have any problem he can sit in your place and then receive. Otherwise there may be lack of coordination, somebody sitting at some other place is receiving, so only one ARO you should specify. Then the second thing that you have to specify in that notification is the place where you will be sitting and receiving the nomination papers. You may be having your office in the collectorate and you would like that place to be notified, but in that case you will have to say collectorate, but you have also to specify the room and other things, so that people may not be just roaming around in the collectorate and asking where I have to go for this, and in a general election maybe even more officers may be sitting in the same collectorate. So, you have to be very particular about the room number, wing number, where you sit, and better you put some signages also, so that whosoever is intending to come to you, he knows exactly where he has to go. In third place, you have also to specify the time and place of the scrutiny. Date, as I have said, is already fixed by the election commission's notification. So, immediately after the last date of withdraw nominations, the immediate next day will be the date of scrutiny, that you can't change, but time you have to decide, and then place where you will be conducting the scrutiny, that also you have to specify. Last thing will be that you specify the same place where you have received the nomination papers as the place for the scrutiny of nominations, because the candidates already know that this is the place where you received our nominations. So, we can go there and see that the scrutiny also takes place, and time of course we leave it to you, because sometime in the elections may be held in the extreme winter, somewhere in extreme summer, somewhere during rainy season. So, we leave it to you, but it is better that if the chief electoral officer of the state, he keeps this in these considerations in view, and then if he tells you a particular time, it is better, particularly at the time of a general election, if the same time of scrutiny is fixed in all constituencies, so that people may not be just in wondering what will be the time for the scrutiny. These are the 3 things you have to very carefully put in your public notice. Then the formal process of election starts on the day on which, as I have said, the notification is issued. On that very day itself, the candidates will be free to come to you to file your nomination papers. So, from that day itself you will have to be in your office, to be in your place where you have specified that you will be receiving the nomination papers. So, from that day itself you will have to be in your office, you will have to make all other preparations. So, on that day itself the process actually will start. one thing we would like to tell you, be very careful that if we have specified a particular officer as the returning officer, then that particular officer should act as the returning officer, because every appointment is notified by the election commission. Supposing a particular officer has been designated as the returning officer by the election commission, then the district election officer or the chief elect, even the chief electoral officer cannot say, okay, you just function as the ERO. That will become a very invalid action. It is only the election commission which can change. So, secondly, we would also like to caution you that supposing the district election officer or the chief electoral officer has said that I have already sent a proposal that he will function as the RO. So, he can't do it in anticipating that the commission will approve. Such understanding should not be there. So, whosoever has been notified in the gazette as the returning officer, he himself or herself should act as the RO, because there was a particular case somewhere here when in anticipating that the man will be changed. So, for one day somebody else functioned as the RO, then that led to a difficulty because the commission did not agree with that proposal. So, there was, so be cautious about this.